Hi, I'm Rodi Srivastava,
I'm Anuradha Nagraj.
and this is The Migration Story.
8:40 में निकलती हूँ, भाग के जाके
क्योंकि ना मेरा को लेट से पहुंचूंगी तो गेट का बाहर अंदर रख देगा, पंचर आएगा, झाड़ा गाली देगा.
Thermal comfort, or when they complain about extreme heat inside factories, they are told that it's not as bad for you as farmers or construction laborers. So there is always a pitting against one against the other.
The report talks about a gendered health crisis. 96.8% of the garment workers surveyed reported a burning sensation during urination.
Water. In many factories, the water point or water container is a bit larger spaces. So they need to walk and take a water and drink, come back, sit. This takes time. Few minutes will increase the anxiety of a worker.
The challenge with a hazard like extreme heat is also that it's not visible. It's primarily felt by all of us, and especially by those who are exposed to higher temperatures for longer durations. So that is when we started to feel that what are the ways in which we can try and make this more visible.
Madam, when these people comes, the factory will be completely cleaned, the toilets are clean, they'll give a proper drinking water to us. But the completely a different scenario for today and tomorrow.
So why did your methodology, kind of tie toilet access directly to heat stress calculation? As we record this, many parts of India are still waiting for the monsoon rains to arrive, and many of us are reeling from the intense summer heat. But while most of our conversations about heat waves focus on farming or construction work or gig work, there is an indoor reality that remains largely invisible. I recently read something quite disturbing. Apparently, when the heat becomes too much, a group of garment factory workers slip away to pour water on the bathroom floors just to lie down and cool themselves before getting back to their workstations. This I read in Breaking Point Heat and the Garment Floor, a critical report brought out by HeatWatch in collaboration with the Tata Institute of Social Sciences, Mumbai. Their idea was to bring the hidden crisis of heat to light, heat inside factory floors, which is consistently ignored by conventional climate audits and supply chain monitoring systems. This study has grave national implications. According to the Economic Survey of India, the textile and apparel sector accounts for 11% of our manufacturing output and employs over 45 million people. Crucially, it is an industry powered by the most vulnerable. The apparel sector has the highest share of female employment in the country. Over 75% are women. And a majority of them are interstate migrant labor. Drawing from worker surveys, in-depth interviews, and factory case studies across major hubs in Tamil Nadu, Delhi, NCR, and Gujarat, this report combines data with human testimonies. To take us inside these findings and the live digital dashboard built to map them, we are joined by Apekshita Vashne, founder and executive director at HeatWatch. Welcome, Apekshita.
Thank you so much, Sandhya, for having me.
We are also joined by Shahana M, program convener at Munnade Social Organization, a prominent garment worker collective here in Bangalore. Welcome, Shahana.
Thank you so much.
Shahana, let's start with you. Breaking Point report has a lot of testimonies from workers in neighboring Tamil Nadu and Delhi who say that the indoor heat doesn't leave the building. It just builds up day after day.
Correct.
Does this track with what you see? Can you tell me what does a peak summer day actually feel like inside a factory hall packed with machines and people?
The building of the garment industry itself, the roof of that, it's completely a trapped of heat. Like it's made up of a steel kind of thing or a iron kind of thing. It's completely heats will be like they feel like they are inside the steam boilers. And also the workers who work for the ironing using the steam boilers or a pressing units or a normal tailorer who works like 100 of machine in the same place. These and all make them feel so much of it. Like they will give an example, like whatever the heat outside is completely different in inside. It will be increased heat in inside of the floor,
I see.
and also there is no option of escape as well inside the floor. There are some fans are installed, but completely under a regulatory. Like there is no much speed. It's a evenly running fans. But what will happen if they request for the little more increase? What they will do, it will affect the quality. Will not do that, but it's affecting the workers' health as well.
Oh, you're saying that the indoor heat feels much more than outdoors at times. And that, to a great extent, is because of the construction of the factory itself. Apekshita, I come to you now. The dashboard and the data highlight that 11 out of the 15 units that were surveyed operate under metal or asbestos roofs. So this creates it traps the heat through the night. So the buildings absorb the radiation all day and fail to cool down overnight. So can you explain how this structural layout means that workers are, they feel that they are stepping into a literal furnace at 8 a.m. even before their shift is started?
Yes, absolutely, Sandhya. So, what also adds to this, to higher temperatures, is the machines that are generating heat. And you will see in one of the thermal images that we've used in the report, which is through WRI and their work in Gujarat, you can see the temperature showing a shocking 99 degrees Celsius.
Wow.
So, of course, it's the building that traps heat, it's the machines that people are working with, as well as the metabolic activity of the work itself. So, all of this combined is what is felt by workers indoors. In our report, 80% of the 115 garment workers we surveyed said that there was little to no air movement at their workstations. So that means that there's nowhere for this heat to escape.
Yes. And I think even a garden city like Bangalore is not immune to such extreme heat conditions, probably not as much as in Tamil Nadu and Delhi NCR and other parts of India. But still, it can feel quite uncomfortable and hot under these circumstances. Abhishita, just to follow up on that, we come back to the report and the dashboard itself. From a research and data perspective, what made this emerge as a critical hidden flashpoint for climate heat? And also, has this been historically invisible to factory inspectors and brand audits? And if so, why?
Absolutely. I think there were multiple conversations that we were having as we released this report, and the findings, of course, are shocking. While evidence really helps us understand the true picture, the challenge with a hazard like extreme heat is also that it's not visible. It's primarily felt by all of us, and especially by those who are exposed to higher temperatures for longer durations. So that is when we started to feel that what are the ways in which we can try and make this more visible, and from a variety of standpoints. So one is, of course, workers are terribly impacted, but we will not see change until all stakeholders acknowledge this reality and work together towards improvements in conditions. And that means we have to look at the economic loss that will happen for a country like India, which is highly heat exposed and impacted by extreme temperatures, as well as brands who are sourcing from this country, and manufacturers and suppliers who are also interested in improving conditions but may lack resources or may lack knowledge to be able to improve conditions. So the attempt with this dashboard, which lays out factories in the country and overlays that with the temperature humidity conditions, is to provide this picture of the impact of extreme heat on garment work in India, and to be able to identify who are the stakeholders involved, to be able to establish accountability, responsibility, and collaboration so that we can all work together towards improvement in conditions. And finally, to also reiterate that extreme heat is not just a climate condition alone. And that's why we intentionally had the report launch first, and we then had the dashboard, which also includes stories from garment workers as well as experiences of factory owners, to say that this is a far larger issue. It's an issue of economic justice, of labor, of basic amenities, social protections. And we have to think of it in that context.
Absolutely. Thanks for that succinct overview of what led all of you to look at it from a point of view of how to represent the heat, which is not something that one can explain to another person unless there is some tangible way in which you can explain heat and the impact it has on bodies, especially working women. And I think the overlay of the supplier factories adds to this is what I feel from the the dashboard that I could go through it. Now let's just look a little closer at what your data tells us about the worker experience and health impacts. The report talks about a gendered health crisis. 96.8% of the garment workers surveyed reported a burning sensation during urination, and 87% reported facing acute heat-related issues like headaches, dizziness, weaknesses, and severe muscle cramps. Shahana, I'm coming to you. The report talks about a voluntary dehydration. I think I've also heard this before, where women stop drinking water because it's too difficult to get a permission to use the toilets, or because the water itself isn't clean. So when you meet with workers and when your field officers go to the field, how do those women you work with, how do they navigate this choice between, there is a natural cooling choice, but yet you have to meet your production targets? How do they do it?
The main thing here is the production targets. In the garment industry, that too in a Bangalore export industry, the targets are extremely high. They are demanding. Now, previously it was around only 50-60. Now it's reached to 150 piece per hour. If they miss the target reaching within an hour of time, the supervisor will scold publicly, like, why can't you complete your targets, these, with the bad words and everything. So this creates an anxiety. This anxiety, what they will do, they sit and do the productions. So this increases their headaches, burning sensation during the urination, some kind of urine infections or menstrual health issues they are finding, along with some kind of chronic dehydrations like dehydration, like anemia. All such things will increase because not taking proper water intakes.
Okay. And you're saying that this worsens during the summer months?
Yeah, because this time they feel more thirsty. In this time also, what they will do, if they miss, they need to compensate on their lunch break time, because they'll get only 30 minutes for lunch break. In that 30 minutes, they will compromise 10 minutes to complete the targets. So within 20 minutes or within 15 minutes, they need to finish up their food.
You're right, because the report also notes that 78% of workers skip the breaks entirely to meet the targets. So you are saying that the pressure of these timelines add to the heat, and it's an active tool of workplace strain then.
Correct.
All the more stress and strain because of it.
Yes.
So related to that, Apekshita, I was just looking at the design of the stress index that you created. So your regular climate audits will look at the dry thermometer, but in here, sanitation is given the statistical weight at 34.6%. So why did your methodology kind of tie toilet access directly to heat stress calculation? Is it because of inputs like these?
Yes, absolutely. I would like to highlight that all of the literature around heat stress adaptation, or how do we deal with extreme heat, is about keeping your core body temperature down.
Yes.
And in order to do that, some of the cardinal principles of how a human body does it, and all of us understand this because all of us do it, is we drink water, we use the washroom, we rest, we sit in shade, and we self-pace ourselves. But what happens in a factory setting where there are such punishing production targets is that none of those choices that many people in white collar jobs take for granted is not available to workers. So what that means is that neither is rest, nor adequate drinking water, nor toilet access available. And this then creates a vicious cycle of not hydrating, not resting, and not using the washroom. What this ultimately does is that this has significant impact on your body's ability to cool itself down. And therefore, by looking at literature and what it records about how human bodies cope and adapt to heat, as well as experiences of garment workers, where one of the most fundamental problems is this absolute lack of basic amenities and time to access these amenities, we decided that this is one of the biggest challenges and this needs a higher weightage in the heat stress index. And even with this, what we found that bathroom access is also not just about being able to access toilets on a day-to-day basis to relieve yourself, but it's also connected to menstrual health and to maintenance of hygiene for workers. And you've seen the data where women have not just reported burning sensations during urination, and 92.6% have said that they experience disruptions to their menstrual cycles. So, this again, what is needed, of course, access to menstrual hygiene products, but also access to washrooms. When we look at gendered impact of extreme heat, access to sanitation and hygiene becomes very, very important when we're thinking of the impact on the body as well as changes and how one can cope with these temperatures. So that's the reason why sanitation is given a particularly high weight. But alongside, we also look at not just dry bulb, but also humidity conditions, because as we know, for a country like India, which is surrounded by water on three sides, it's not just ambient air temperatures, it's the combination of temperature and humidity levels, which makes for a particularly higher experience of heat stress indoors.
True. I was just about to come there as well. So the humidity multiplier, even a place like Bangalore is not immune to it. I mean, it's higher than Tamil Nadu also. So, like you said, a thermometer might read the ambient temperature as 34 or 32 or whatever, but the dashboard, the heat index, it tracks the wet bulb temperature. So it shows that when you mix that heat with high humidity and zero air movement, especially on a dense factory floor, the body experiences a danger zone of 41 degrees Celsius or more. So can you explain why tracking the heat index on a dashboard changes how we must legally define a hazardous work day?
Absolutely. So when you open the dashboard and you try to understand how hot a particular neighborhood around a factory is, also to highlight that what we've recorded are not temperature humidity conditions of the factory, but of the nearest IMD, Indian Met Department sensor that exists. So the data is visible, should be taken with that in consideration. Additionally, what information is available through this dashboard is a minimum temperature and a maximum temperature, which is recorded on a T-1. So this data gets updated every day. So the temperature conditions you're seeing are from one day before. And where such data is not available, we highlight that it may be outdated. And the additional thing that we are noting here is average humidity, which is recorded through a separate data source, because we do not have that information from IMD. So when you see a maximum temperature of say 37, 38 degrees Celsius, but you see a humidity of 50 to 60%, that itself tells you that the actual feels like, or what the conditions inside have crossed 40 degrees Celsius because of the combination of the temperature and humidity condition. So just this information alone is valuable to us in understanding that these are the actual conditions on the ground. And we know that in many cases, a lot of times the temperature and humidity conditions that get reported are for a larger town or a city, which do not represent specific hyperlocal conditions. So that is one thing that this dashboard is able to tackle. And second, what we also highlight here is that while these are temperature humidity conditions of the nearest weather station and automatic weather station or sensor from IMD, we must also acknowledge that actual humidity conditions inside a factory made out of asbestos, tin, and other heat trapping materials may actually be 2 to 3 degrees higher, considering the built form of the factories. Very few factories, very few large enterprises in India have been able to entirely air condition their factories. So what we're seeing is that this is the condition for most MSMEs and micro enterprises that our country has. And to your second point on why this is important and why we need to think about this is precisely what the data from the report highlights, that given these conditions in the factory spaces, these are the kind of health impact that workers are facing. And by extension, these health impacts are contributing to productivity loss and are contributing to further impact on the larger economics of garment work in India. And by all projections, India is one of the worst affected by extreme heat, and extreme heat is only expected to rise. So if we want to secure health and livelihood of our people, if we want to build resilience in this sector, this kind of visibility is very, very, very important for us to plan any kind of policies, any kind of rules and regulations, not just for, as of yesterday, but for 10, 15, 20 years down the line.
Is this also the reason why you moved from, this could have been a very nice infographic, but you moved to a digital dashboard? So you went past it being a, static report, to have a very live dashboard. So to that extent, what did you want this platform to achieve, to affect policy changes?
Absolutely. The first intention is very much that a report or an infographic is a static tool. We want the people who visit this dashboard, and whether they are policymakers or researchers or garment workers themselves, unions, brands, suppliers, and I mean, of course, garment workers feel it on a daily basis, but everybody else to really feel the here and now of this challenge, to be able to feel this very tangibly. And that's the first intention. The second intention, of course, is for us to continue to build this dashboard. So already it provides a picture of the conditions on the factory floor across the country. But we want to develop this further to understand which are the most at risk places, which are the most at risk factories. What are the best practices that certain manufacturers, suppliers are already putting in place? What is the brand responsibility? How can brands move towards ethical sourcing and be able to support factories that do not have the finances to upgrade and retrofit their spaces for these summer conditions, and actually not just summer but throughout the year conditions? So this is really our first step, to put this data out there. And from here, I think in collaboration with researchers, policymakers, there is granular information that we can access that can significantly help not just inform supply chain practices, but also work towards solutions in terms of, yes, we know the problem is terrible. What do we do and where do we go from here?
Sounds like a great first step, Avakshita, and congrats on the dashboard, Amber.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Listeners, do stay tuned. We'll be back after this short break.
ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് താമസിക്കാൻ പിന്നെ വേറൊരു സ്ഥലമല്ലല്ലോ.
നമ്മൾ പോയത് നമ്മളെ ജീവിത പ്രശ്നത്തിന് വേണ്ടിയിട്ടാണല്ലോ പോയത്. ജീവിക്കാൻ വെച്ചാൽ ഭക്ഷണത്തിന്റെ കാര്യം.
Migration to the Middle East has shaped social and economic life of Kerala for decades. These migration stories are often told through the experience of men working in the Middle East. Yet alongside this history exists another story, one that often remains less visible. It is the story of women who migrate as domestic workers to the Middle East. Working inside private households, these women move through spaces that are rarely seen by the outside world.
Watch the full video on the women Gulf migrants from Kerala, only on the Migration Stories YouTube channel.
Shahana, coming back to you. So when you look at a tool like this, a live dashboard, which actually is around not just in any random area, but in areas where there are factories, and it kind of gives you a fairly clear picture of how the ambient heat levels are rising and it's going into dangerous levels. How can worker collectives like yours use this data? Does it in any way help move the conversation with management, from just one or two workers complaining to having, solid data to back you up when you have these important conversations?
Okay, this is the biggest challenge like a workers face, like they'll never open up. Maybe in hundreds or thousands, one or two people will come and open up and see what they are facing. With this one or two data, we are not able to speak with other stakeholders like a management or a brand or a government department or a labor authorities. But if we have these kind of data, it's very easy to us to showcase them, and it helps us to show them what is happening, how it is affecting workers inside the factory and all. Recent example how it works, the data is important, is recently from a Munnade, we do had one of the meeting with development commissioner for the midday meal for the garment workers. Along with the labor department, like a deputy labor commissioner was available in that meeting, and also director of factories and boilers industry was available in that meeting. We had a discussion what and all the factory charging for the food, like a midday food and everything. and they requested us for the data. Give us the data. Which factory giving free food? What are all the food they are providing? How many are giving? What the cost they are charging? All such data they requested. What we did, from the next day we ran behind each and every factory gate and took a data, and then we mailed to the departments, and we started other conversation. So it took a time to provide real time data to them. Like when we had a meeting, if we had these kind of tool, it's easy for us to give a input. So this is what the information, so you can go through it. This is what the proof for you as well. So these watch, the tool which we are talking right now, it's very much useful for the worker organization, where we'll get the more informations. It's easy for us to have a conversation with stakeholders as well.
That's great to hear, Shahana. Are you saying that your petition for a midday meal for government workers will have a better impact because you were able to provide real-time data to the officials, right?
Yes.
Otherwise, you will be able to mine the data in this dashboard and use it effectively to tell different stakeholders how the heat levels are going up in factories and how they can intervene.
Yes.
Good to know that. Now we come to the aspect of any change will require, different kinds of stakeholders, especially in garment industry, whether it is for domestic production or for global supply chains. So, Apekshita, the factory survey across this 15 units show that 7 out of 15 factories, they had no devices to capture temperature or humidity. And wherever it exists, they only install or turned on when there is a buyer inspection or a visit. So there is this anomaly where compliance measures are, kind of go up around when there is a planned audit. And temporarily everyone feels that it's a climate safe workplace. So Hana, how do workers deal with this, when global buyers come to visit, everything seems to be fine, especially, heat and other things. Do they talk about it to you?
Okay, what the workers spoke about the buyer visit or a external person visits or audit visits, they'll tell, oh, madam, when these people comes, the factory will be completely cleaned, the toilets are clean, they'll give a proper drinking water to us, they will make us very comfortable during those time. But when they move off, like as an example, today they came, tomorrow they will not come, right? Completely a different scenario for today and tomorrow. This kind of changes will be there inside the factory. And also they'll habituate to it, and also they'll announce workers, be quiet, don't talk much, and whenever whoever comes to speak with you, don't tell anything. They'll also select the workers inside the factory to speak with the buyers as well. So only the positive things they'll speak with them. So if the external buyers or audit people speak with the common workers inside without a selected person, they'll come to know the reality of the factory. But this is not happening inside the factory. There's a changes, like the selected people will speak, they'll give completely positive inputs to the buyers. They'll not at all come to know what is happening, what are all the workers are getting affected inside the factory.
So, a question to you, Apekshita. Do you think something like this, the dashboard, and if it's monitored by the worker community and the collectors, can it help break some of this cycle of fake compliance? I'm not saying that all factories or all manufacturers are indulging in this, but wherever there is this compulsion to show a rosy picture, do you think this will help break that?
At the time of audits or compliance, you can say that you can paint a rosy picture, but then the reality is far different. But it's harder to do it if some of this data is available on a public dashboard or on a public platform, because then that does not allow this form of hiding away on that one visit that may happen from an auditor. So I think we need to work towards more transparency in terms of supply chains. And this data that we have is from Open Supply Hub. And the next step here really is that how do we create more transparent ways of data collection and dissemination that shows what are the amenities that exist, whether these factories do have temperature, humidity monitoring systems that are installed. And finally, if and what kind of changes are they making based on this data? So the first step very much is, yes, how do we ensure that we have this data? But second, where all of the collaborative efforts around a lie is where how can we build more accountability and how can we collectively strengthen bargaining power so that there is actual accountability. Do the factories supported by the brands move towards a more leaner production cycles, whereas Sahana said they don't have to make 150 pieces an hour? So those are the questions that we need to answer at this point. And then, of course, another very, very important stakeholder here is what is the government's response? What kind of regulations and what kind of enforcement and then inspectorate is being created to be able to monitor and see whether some of these best practices or some of these regulations don't just remain best practices but actually become enforceable conditions on the factory floor.
That sounds good. Moving on to another section of workers, which the report also talks about, the home-based subcontracted garment workers, mostly young women and their mothers working. Like you mentioned earlier, they are in lower income bracket and they live in small houses, most of them not well ventilated or tin roofed and other such housing units. So how can tools capture this kind of invisible segment, if one can call them, of workforce?
Number one, the recognition of home-based work as work. And we see that, and of course, there's a gendered caste dimension to it, where any kind of work at home, whether it's domestic work or home-based garment work, is not considered work. So what that means is that there's complete opacity on what work is happening, what are the pay scales, who is this work being supplied to, which kind of global supply chains are benefiting through this, and where is that integration from home-based workers? So we currently completely lack any kind of data and visibility on supply chains that home-based workers are part of. So I think very much the first step is for us to really try and understand what is going on and to recognize home-based work as work, because what we've also seen is that many garment workers are not making minimum wage and the condition is far more dire for home-based workers.
Absolutely. And over the years, many of the problems that garment workers face have been systematically recorded, studied, but many things remain the same. So, which is why I was interested when I read about, the report making explicit policy demands, recognizing heat morbidity under the Employee State Insurance ESI Act, mandating flexible work rest cycles and introducing heat hardship allowance. So if you were to choose one non-negotiable legal or regulatory shift that must happen before next summer, what could be that, Abhishek?
I think one very, very tangible and demand is the legal recognition of heat stress as an occupational disease under the ESI Act and Employees Compensation Act. And what this could allow is making heat-related illnesses, heat morbidity compensable, which would significantly help workers reporting a number of heat-related challenges, whether it's, from urinary tract infections to menstrual irregularities and trouble, and being able to access healthcare for these conditions, and the recognition of this forcing structural reforms inside the factory, I think would be a very, very important and robust way in which we can start to think about caring for garment workers.
Absolutely. I also agree with that, because once it comes as part of the ESI Act, I think there will be more doors will open, there will be more receptivity towards other kinds of interventions as well, and see this as a part of a worker's life in modern India and elsewhere, of course. And there will be more room for demanding accountability and other benefits for workers and their families. So just as a closing thought, the migration story has many listeners, students, researchers, and other folks. So when they open the HeatWatch dashboard and they're looking at various red, yellow, orange, and all of that bubbles and data and stories, it's actually about climate change eroding labor rights and human rights at this point. So how can civil society use public data tools like HeatWatch to build solidarity and seek for more accountability? Shahana, would you like to respond?
As a civil society organization, climate change is no longer a future threat for garment workers. It's already affecting their health and ability to work safely. Public tools like this HeatWatch are very important because they make workers' experiences visible. But data is only the first step. But in the meantime, the researchers can continue documenting evidences. Civil society organization can amplify worker voices. And along with this, brand must take responsibility for workplace condition throughout their supply chains. And other way, the government must establish stronger heat protection standards as well. And most importantly, we need to listen to workers themselves, like than depending more on data. In the meantime, the person who is working on the things, they need to listen live with the workers, like they need to go to the field, talk with them, they need to take inputs directly from them. And I'm clearly saying that this is not at all a health issue. It's kind of a labor issues, like a labor right violations as well in other way as a worker organization perspective. This is what I can say from my end here.
Very clearly put, Shahana. They are not asking for any comfort. They are not asking for high-powered AC to be fitted to. That is also a very feasible option. And what they're asking is for regular breaks, water breaks, fans, and maybe whatever other infrastructure changes that can bring the heat down. And yes, of course, the production targets to be a little manageable as far as possible. Thanks for that.
Yes.
Apekshita, what do you want the listeners to take away from this conversation?
I want them to record what Shahana said and then replay it so that this can become like the ethos with which civil society, non-profits, researchers work, which is worker-centered and worker-focused. And I also want to say, because there is so much climate guilt and consumer guilt that gets propagated, and there's an attempt to individualize this problem, which it is not. It's a far bigger systemic challenge, which cannot be solved by an individual changing to, say, paper straws or steel straws. While like sustainable living is important, it's a far bigger, far more systemic issue. So, and the reason I say this is because this is particularly stark in, say, garment, where there's consumer guilt around what are the conditions in which the clothes were made in. And what I really want to say is that this guilt can be channeled into supporting worker movements, worker-led advocacy, holding brands, holding governments accountable to create better conditions, and to really support organizations that are working for worker welfare, clearly identifying this as a labor issue, as Shahana was saying, and moving towards it. So there's no room for hopelessness or just being racked by guilt, but there's really a very, very dire need for us to come together and collectively advocate for protections for those who are most impacted. And that's where I think our energies as allies in civil society, as large as civil society, should lie.
Wonderful. I think, it would really help us to listen to workers, and like both Apekshita and Shahana said, come together, and there is a time for rejecting one label or the one brand or the other, but we can also channelize some of that energy and really support the workers who are demanding very simple things so that they can get on with their work in life. Apekshita and Shahana, thank you so much for bringing this very critical and somewhat invisible reality to light in this podcast today. And to our listeners, you can view the live data. We will have all the links below the podcast. And until next time, stay safe, and thank you for tuning in.
Thank you, Sandhya, for your wonderful moderation. And thank you, Shahana. It was extremely vivid and really heart-wrenching, all the stories you shared.
Thank you very much, Sandhya, from my end as well. Like, allow me to speak about the workers' issue with you.
Thank you.
Check out our website www.themigrationstory.com for more content. You can subscribe to our podcast on YouTube and Spotify. The audio editing and sound design is by Akshay Ramuhalli. Stay tuned for more stories on migration.
The Migration Story.